Jonathan Katz-Moses captures Kickback at 50,000 frames per second. Are lumber prices ever going back down? Powermatic makes a major change in marketing strategy. Those stories and more coming up. After being without a shop for several years, the staff at Fine Woodworking magazine are in the process of setting up a new shop. Their goal is to create a shop that represents a typical woodworker shop, though they do have some machines that are bigger and much more expensive than most of us have. One tool I'll be specifically interested in seeing is the Oneida Supercell dust collector. They've set up 3 of them in their shop. Right now they still are setting things up and deciding where things need to go. As with all workshops, Fine Woodworking shop will evolve over time. It will be interesting to see what they come up with and how this shop improves the content of their magazine and their website. According to Fine Woodworking magazine, Lost Art Press has introduced their crucible planing stop. The crucible planing stop is made from ductile iron, so it can take a beating. Hit it with a metal sledge and it will not shatter, unlike typical gray iron. The teeth and the angle of the head of the stop are based on A.J. Roubaud's planing stop from the 18th century. The teeth come ground to a level of sharpness that is good for woodworkers who are learning to use tooth planing stops. The teeth will grab the work, but they're not so sharp that they will cut into you. Once you get comfortable using a planing stop, you can file the underside of the teeth if you like, so they grab the wood even harder. To find out more, go to lostartpress.com. Fine Woodworking magazine also announced 2 chair-making tools from Wenger Workshop. These chair-making tools are the Travis Scraper and the Spoke Scraper. These 2 scraper tools were developed during the 2020 lockdown and were produced in response to the need to produce better finished surfaces during chair making. The Travis Scraper is designed to work on concave surfaces such as chair seats. The Spoke Scraper is designed to work on flat and convex surfaces, such as the outsides of seats, spindles, and steam-bent parts. Both tools produce surfaces that require minimal sanding, even on very difficult woods. To find out more information on these and other hand tools for chair making, go to windsorworkshop.co.uk. The podcast in the news is Shannon's Lumber Industry Update by Shannon Rogers. For those of you who aren't familiar with Shannon, he's a wood nerd. He's a woodworker, furniture maker, podcaster, blogger, teacher, director of marketing of one of the largest lumber companies in the United States. Wow, Shannon really knows what he's talking about. One of his specific podcasts I'd like to recommend is episode 65, 2022 Lumber Industry Predictions. In this episode, Shannon made some predictions about where the lumber industry is heading in 2022. He also answers some viewer questions about SAB grade for lumber, corner sawing practices, which have become very popular, plus more. The second episode I'd like to specifically recommend is episode 68, Interpreting Working Properties of Wood. Shannon looks at a very obscure species of wood, Chinese mahogany, and uses his philosophy of technical numbers to identify how this unusual species of wood would work when compared to commonly known woods. Shannon explains in this example that by going from the abstract to specifics, anyone can learn more about any species in the world by using his methodology. If you wonder what the workability of any wood is, this method just might help you out. Shannon updates his podcast regularly. It's one of the few that I have subscribed to. The blog in the news is the James Gibson McIlvaine News Blog. This blog is where they aim to inform about all things hardwood, plywood, and millwork. As importers of record, they'll throw in some important regulation information as well as give you a peek behind the curtain of the lumber industry. Much of the content here is inspired by questions from their customers, so feel free to drop them a line and ask a question. If they don't already have an article about it, they may just write one in the future to address it. Most of their blog posts are written by a very familiar person, Shannon Rogers. One specific blog I'd like to point out is Lumber Prices Explained. The most asked question that Shannon gets in his day job is, how much is my lumber going to cost? In this blog post, Shannon clears up some of the frustration regarding hardwood lumber pricing. He explains all the factors that are involved and how they set prices. Shannon gives some pointers on how to get the best price on the hardwood for your next project, but explains why the price you're quoted today may change tomorrow. Rikon Tools has introduced their new 13-inch planer. The features are helical style cutter head, 2-speed feed rate, all steel construction, easy blade access, and in-feed, out-feed table extensions. To find out more, go to rikontools.com. General Tools has introduced their auto-start dust collectors according to Fine Woodworking magazine. These units come with bags in a single or a double unit, or the same units with canisters. These units have an auto switch where the machine can be plugged into the dust collector. When the machine is turned on and off, the dust collector will be turned on and off automatically. To find out more about these, go to generaltoolsusa.com. Speaking of dust collectors, Woody Zine reported that Win has introduced a new affordable dust collector with the option of wall mounting. It has a 5.7 amp motor, up to 60 CFM, 12-gallon bag, 4-inch dust port, and weighs only 17 pounds. Check your Win dealer for availability. News from Mark Spagnola, the Wood Whisperer, that Powermatic has canceled their sponsorship with him. They've been with Mark for 14 years, starting in 2007. According to Mark, the new management has decided that the company no longer is extending long contracts with influencers, a label that Mark detests. While Mark stated he's very thankful for the long-term relationship, he's quickly started to sell off those gold tools in his shop. Yes, a saw stop is already in his shop. Mark posted a photo of some guys hauling away the Powermatic in a rental van. Mark stated he thinks the saw stop PCS is a downgrade from his Powermatic 2000, which he thought was overkill for his shop. Mark's trying to make it clear that he still thinks highly of Powermatic tools, but he's now free to explore other options. As Mark said, I'm now kind of a free agent in a way. In reality, Mark's like the rest of us in being able to shop around, but at a much higher price point than most of us can afford. He's already brought a new bandsaw into a shop, a Minimax SCM S440P. He's now trying to get opinions on Laguna's customer service because he's interested in their planer, or perhaps a Hammer A341D. Now that's quite a budget for new tools. It will be interesting to watch and see what happens, but most of us don't have the available cash he seems to have. I'm sure we're going to see some real interesting reviews. According to Beaver Industrial Supply, going into the new year we were hopeful of improvements to the severe supply chain delays, impacting product availability. The reality is that it hasn't gotten better. Many price increases have already occurred and more are on the way. Also, don't expect many sales in 2022 either. Trading Economics reports that the Chicago lumber futures were hovering above the $1,000 per 1,000 board foot mark in the first week of February, as bargain hunters took advantage of last month's massive drop that pushed prices around $900. Lumber plunged almost 15% over the previous month as rising mortgage rates helped cool down the U.S. housing market. However, traders anticipate a return in demand when construction projects resume and pick up the pace following the winter season. Lumber is expected to trade at the $1,017.47 USD per thousand board feet by the end of this quarter, according to Trending Economics global macro models and analysts' expectations. Looking forward, they estimate it to trade at $1,427.98 in 12 months' time. It doesn't look like lumber future prices are coming down anytime soon. Asked to assess their ups and downs in 2021, many hardwood lumber company representatives said it was a successful year and they're looking forward to 2022. One industry representative said that in 2021, demand trends were created that will likely sustain prosperous times for the forest products industry into next year. Another representative stated, "I think many items have probably reached their peak prices because we are seeing more and more substitutions with Eastern European species or African hardwoods, in addition to exotic woods. It should be some time before we see significant drops in prices in North American species because many wholesalers and distributors like us are very low in inventory and it should take a long time before we fill up." One executive warned, "Freight costs on imports and exports have skyrocketed with no end in sight for 2022. Most expect container availability to loosen up in the second quarter of 2022, but from trucks to planes to trains, to slow boats from China, every possible point of the supply chain is backed up with inflated costs. There's little chance of prices dropping significantly." Rob at Make Things on YouTube has put down a stubby awl challenge. Rob has several scratch awls in his shop and uses them often to mark wood for holes he needs to drill. He's found these long awls to be cumbersome for the task, so he came up with the idea of making a stubby awl. His challenge to other woodworkers is for them to make their own stubby awls. You need to watch Rob's video fully to understand the challenge, as well as subsequent videos where Rob creates some unique awls using some very unusual methods. Check out Make Things on YouTube. Rob has a lot of very innovative techniques and ideas. And while you're on YouTube, you can check out my videos on YouTube Shorts showing my progress on a stubby birdcage awl. And a full video on that is coming soon. Mark Spagnola caused quite a stir on social media recently after he had published a review of major brands of miter gauges available on the market today. As he always does with his reviews, Mark bought all the miter gauges with his own money. The review was very thorough. Mark put them all through the test of accuracy and durability. He didn't hold back with his findings. This is where social media blew up with supporters of one of the gauges that Mark didn't recommend. Some of these people are even sponsored by the company that makes the miter gauge. I'm not adding to the discussion except to say that a whole bunch of people got their shorts in a knot over what was clearly an example of the company's customer service falling down on the job by not helping out their customer. In spite of all the bantering that occurred after the review was published, the review is excellent and honest and stands on its own. Jonathan Katz-Moses has done it again. He rented a high-speed camera to record Kickback on a table saw. The video is outstanding. The camera Jonathan used is a Phantom TMX 7510, which takes video at 50,000 frames per second in ultra-high definition. You won't believe what this camera captured nor the force of the kickback in the video clips. That circled blur heading toward the head of the cardboard cutout of Danny DeVito is a piece of wood. Jonathan was able to capture this and other kickbacks at such high speeds that the video you see is in extreme slow motion. If you own a table saw or even use one, this video is for you. I highly recommend it. If you're all wondering, the birdcage awl that I did for Rob's challenge is ready to go. It's finished. I've actually even been using it out in the shop. The shorts will continue, and after they're done, I'll post a full video on making this awl. Thanks especially to Rob for making the challenge. I enjoyed doing it. I hope you like this new format for the Woodworking News. Less of me and more news. Please share it with others. We need to spread the word about the Woodworking News. You might be interested in some videos that I posted over here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can just click on the logo below. Thank you all very much for watching.